Hey guys, it's Kusi. While the world is talking about the upcoming German Hardcore Classic event.
Speaking of which, my mods told me that the Germans are doing their own OnlyFans, kind of.
That for some reason I still didn't get invited to. I instead took some time to test out the upcoming changes to almost all the specs for World of Warcraft's new expansion, Midnight. And I plan to do this for every specific class. So before we get going, make sure to like the video and subscribe for totally free, because we got more of these class reviews coming in the next weeks. Also, let me know in the comments which class you would like to see next, because today we talk about the class that is an absolute favorite of the community. Even though whenever you need one, you won't find any. We talk about the Demon Daddy, the Opera of Agony, and the one that puts the D in Chaos Bolt. Now, before going over the spec-specific changes, we will go over some of the class tree changes, as I was super excited when I read them for the first time. Some of these are insane for both high-level mythic class content as well as extremely impressive for solo play in terms of leveling when it comes to quality of life. So let's start right there, and we start from the top. Burning Rush and Fell Domination are here to stay. 17% movement speed on demand and an instant summon are just too good to pass up on, so they kept it in. However, we got some new quality of life. Mortal Coil range increased by 10 yards. Now, for those who never played Warlock recently, this doesn't seem like a huge thing, but I can tell you, it absolutely is. Mortal Coil heals you for a fourth of your HP, which means this is considered a defensive cooldown for PvE. Considering all of your spells got 40 yards, but this one only had 20, ensuring a weird interaction when it came to quickly healing yourself in hairy situations, because keep in mind the heal itself has a travel time. Now it's a bit easier to deal with. Yet one new talent we all can agree on to be insane is Foul Mouth, which ironically is what they call your mother in high school. With that, all of your non-lethal curses like Weakness, Tongues, and Exhaustion are now applied AoE and therefore are easily applied during a high target count. And I love this. It's not Omega broken, but it kinda means that Warlock now have some more utility to go for. Putting that thing on crack, we do have a new choice node between Blight of Weakness or Blight of Tongues. Those two spells do exactly what their Teemu version is doing, but a lot more impactful. I mean, 100% casting time increase for 12 seconds could be super useful on certain dungeon pulls. If I just think about those nasty caster packs in Priory, big fan. And Power Tower now gives you one more charge, which is nice, though it's bugged on the PTR right now, but whatever. And you participate in Drain Life speedruns as the suck duration is decreased while the amount of suck is increased. Can't wait for just people sucking me dry in PvP, man.
What do you mean by that?
Furthermore, when you drain life now, you automatically heal your pet, which is kinda nice for them single player events like Delves or Elite bosses that you can encounter in outdoors. Now, stepping up to the first specialization of today's video, the problem child over the past couple of years because Blizzard didn't really know what to do with it. We of course talk about Affliction. I'm not sure when it happened, but at some point in time Blizzard thought it's a good idea to put a flat damage spell into the rotation of a damage over time fantasy. And I'm here to happily announce Malefic Rapture is gone. No more. No more role-playing a Tinder date where it's about 30 minutes of prepping just to be done with the fun part in 3 seconds. Now you dot again. So before going over some really neat and well-executed talent ideas, let me briefly explain to you how the spec works now. We have 3 dots still: Unstable Affliction, Corruption, and Curse of Agony. Corruption is applied via the spell itself or by using Seed of Corruption, which is pretty much your one cast quick access AoE application. Curse of Agony can no longer be applied AoE, but it's now applied to 2 targets per use. Pretty much the same way Moonfire is for Boomkins in the War Within, I think. While Taint is completely gone, and you'll be doing the reapplication now as a filler, as Agony is your only passive regeneration of Soul Shards. Unstable Affliction is now a Soul Shard spender, but it's applicable to multiple targets in case there's some council fight happening. And then you got Shadowbolt or Drain Soul as your actual fillers if all of the other dots are running and you have no shards left. This now means you apply your dots and then either spend your Soul Shards on Unstable Affliction during single target or Seed whenever there's more. And yes, Unstable Affliction stacks on one target to a point where this takes insanely hard. I had 6 stacks on it and it did pretty much the same damage as Chaos Bolt on this character, but every other second as a dot. It's wild, man. Though again, that's just the basic rotation, which means we got some tools to escalate this entire party pretty quickly. First, to buff out Seed of Corruption, you most likely be using the talents Patient Zero as well as Sow the Seeds to essentially get a 3-for-1 special, meaning more explosion, more damage, more pew pew. You got Dark Harvest that also does some extra damage to every target with a damage over time effect to also increase their ticking duration. Dark Glare also stays, which means your big cooldown is there to increase your dot durations even more, which is kinda whatever considering reapplying dots is not that difficult anymore. Yet this could get omega insane if you have those raid boss lust pulls with 3, 6 or even 8 Unstable Affliction stacks and then you prolong them by 8 seconds. That is gonna crush anything. And you got a bunch of passive perks from some free casts that also end up being instant. Nothing better than an instant Seed of Corruption, let me tell you that much. Now Haunt is also staying, as this was usually your funnel spell to increase the pressure on your main target. It's still exactly that, but even more with Midnight. With the Apex talents, Haunt becomes the trigger for another extra damage over time spread to 4 targets, as well as the Shadow of Nathriza, which in short calls down a Dreadlord Meteor. Very passive talent that doesn't really alter your gameplay, as it just procs off a spell you use anyways. But let's see how it plays out. Haunt could also be a hard-hitting spell at this point, as it also gets another 100% damage increase. All in all, I am very hyped for this spec, as this is one of the rare occasions where Blizzard actually went back to its roots and understanding that their Malefic Rupture idea wasn't as good. How fun this one ultimately will be heavily depends on the soul shard generation doing single target. As for AoE, you got shards till the break of dawn. Now moving over the complete opposite of the dot thrower, Destruction. Ever since I can remember, Destrolox was pretty much what Edgelord's mages would be. Hard casting, big hits, even bigger crits, and a lot of fire. Now granted, I didn't play Destro as much over the past few years, but what I can say for now is that it didn't get changed too much. The core abilities are still in place, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I do believe Destruction is a fan favorite according to the data of Mythic Plus and rating. Emulate is still your only dot. Conflag will boost up your big spells, and Incinerate is your filler for Ember generation, which is just soul shards for the Fire Edition, to unleash some devastating Chaos Bolts. Furthermore, the big cooldown, Summon Infernal, is still ready to play, as well as Demon Fire, Soul Fire, which hits like a truck on the PTR right now, Dimensional Rift and Shadow Burn that you most likely play depending on how much damage they will actually do. Cataclysm is also up for grasp to AoE apply Immolate, and your Conflag now spreads that very same dot to multiple enemies. And from what I can tell, this is a new thing. At least I never seen this before, so don't quote me on that. The new Apex talents are once again passively applied and just do some extra damage on top of the buttons you already press. If they are cool or not will depend on the scaling. All in all, as I said, Destruction didn't change much, and it's easily one of the best casters to try out if you're new to the game or if you're new to casting in general. Very straightforward, very tanky, some big ass crits, very reliable AoE with all the nice utility perks Warlocks have to pull out of your pocket. And to finish you off, naughty, pause, let me present to you another spec that got changed around a lot over the past few patch cycles, with the difference of Blizzard seemingly finding their core identity with this one, the Demolock. Now, Demonology is all about summoning demons from a nether to help you take down any foe. You heard me, we are talking imps, Fellhunter, Vile Fiends, and a Daywalker in the Black Edition. This spec finds all kinds of misfits of Hell's asshole and summons them right back to the party. Over the past years, this specialization already had some massive changes to their core setup to make it more accessible and easier to get into, while still keeping a little bit of min-maxing for the big players to get ahead of the pack. Now scratch all of that, because now the setup is far easier than one could ever imagine. Instead of praying for a proc, so your Dreadstalkers are instant to avoid the hard cast of them and to avoid spending the soul shards, they are now always instant and cost no resource, meaning you have those puppies up 24/7. They furthermore now also summon your Vile Fiend passively, which by the way you can choose between a single target and an AoE version, meaning now this is 2 summonings in one combined as an instant cast. You now spend about 99% of your soul shards on the Hand of Budan to summon those fire rats instead. The only 2 exceptions for other soul shard users are the following: Summon Doomguard, which returns as an active spell instead of some passive that happens in the Wobble-In, and the new spell node of summoning an Imp Lord or a Fel Ravager. Now let me tell you why this is monumental for Demonlocks. Because Demonology is hard stuck to the Felguard and lacks flexibility in terms of their own demon utility. They never had the kick of Fellhunters as well as the super rare utility of magic dispelling from the imps. Instead, their only interrupt was stuck to a stun, which often means that your interrupts weren't helpful for the purpose of gathering casters into the pack of mobs. It also had a mad cooldown. Now you do have the kick, and while the Imp Lord will most likely have a very niche use anywhere, because I only remember one dungeon where it was actually useful, the Fellhunter will most likely be part of any build that isn't raiding. You got 2 kicks now, all the time. As when you use the Fel Ravager, it will interrupt the target on demand, but as long as this spell is either active or on cooldown, it turns into the normal interrupt Fellhunters provide. So this is always up. It's incredible. The amount of times I was molding when playing Demo in the last season because I wish I could have just have a normal kick is crazy, and now it finally happened. Now your main cooldown still sits on the Demonic Tyrant to increase the duration of most of your active pets as well as their damage done, but even this slacker now gets some attention, as the damage pattern of this specific mob was just single target. Now you can choose for it to cleave damage in form of the Entoran Armaments. squeezing out some extra AoE for Mythic Plus. Hell to the yeah, man. I'm a big fan of this. Now, 2 things I dislike about this I would like to point out. First thing is the choice node between Implosion and Power Siphon. I like Power Siphon to use before a pull just to get some demonic core procs rolling, because it just smoothens out the start of a fight. But I also like to send my 20 imps flying whenever I know I won't need them anymore at the end of the pull or whenever I go into a portal. Granted, without Dreadstalker and Vile Fiend requiring 3 soul shards to spend, maybe Power Siphon is not that required anymore. So maybe this is more of a raid thing now? I don't know. Another thing I do not praise Blizzard for keeping is Doom. Whenever you use an instant cast of Demon Bolt, Doom will be applied to your target. That in the War Within just did damage to the target, and in Midnight now it does AoE when it expires. Hand of Gul'dan will reduce the dot duration to trigger the explosion faster. Cool. What I don't like is that you're still required to tap target between mobs to have multiple applications of Doom running. In the perfect world, I just like to have Doom be applied to a close enemy instead, as the constant target switching to apply a damage over time effect dives more into the Affliction tree in my opinion. Though this is just crying on a small level, because now the Doom spread is even less important than in the War Within, considering you can just summon the Doom God on demand now and it's no longer a proc off of Doom. The Apex talents finally do trigger some active gameplay part to it. After summoning your Demonic Tyrant, you open up a portal for 15 seconds that will spawn a random demon for 3 Hand of Gul'dan cast use. Furthermore, during that time, and keep in mind this is your big burst window, your Hand of Gul'dan will always refund 1 soul shard, meaning they effectively only cost 2 now. Oh, on that note, you can no longer use Hand of Gul'dan on 1 to 3 soul shards, it's hard capped by 3 now. Meaning, during that time, you want to make sure that you use as many Hand of Gul'dan casts as possible to benefit from even more demons. Taking everything in consideration, my first impression of this was that this is extremely cool. They kept the summoning of demons as the core identity and even added more to the list, while not making it feel stuffed or bloated, because they simply added multiple summonings into 1 cast. That is also instant. As somebody who played the current version of the spec for a long time, I approve of this, as well as the design pruning, and I can highly recommend the entire Warlock class to everybody who wants to give it a try. With that being said, let me know what you think of it, and let me know which class you would like to see next. I hope you enjoyed this little review about the Warlock for Midnight. Until I catch you in the next one, peace.